I there in the office smelled like lemon polish and too many broken promises. My hand trembled slightly as I reached for the pen, but I gripped it anyway. I signed where she told me right under the line marked voluntary admission. I didn't read the form. I didn't think I needed to, because it was Rachel, my daughter, the girl I raised alone, the girl I taught how to braid her hair on picture day, the girl I gave my life to. She had said it was for insurance purposes, just routine. She smiled. They need some paperwork to assess the house in your name. And I believed her. The pen clicked shut. Rachel kissed my cheek, light and distant. Thanks, Mom, she said, slipping the form back into the folder. You rest now. I'll handle the rest. It wasn't until 2 nights later, when a man in scrubs showed up at my doorstep with a clipboard and a van waiting, that I understood what I had signed. The facility was 3 towns over street, Elora's home for dependents. The walls were white, the windows didn't open, and there were no clocks. No clock. That was what I noticed first. I asked the intake nurse about it. She gave a soft, rehearsed smile and said, time can be stressful too. Monitor in your condition. My condition? I was 72. Not senile, not broken. I had a bad knee and a grieving heart, but I wasn't gone. Yet. Rachel didn't visit that first week. Or the second. She texted me once. They'll help you get stronger, Mom. You've done so much. Let them take care of you for once. But the care didn't feel like care. It felt like containment. They kept asking the same questions. What year is it, Mrs. Crawford? Who's the president? Do you know where you are? I answered correctly every time, until I stopped answering at all, because somewhere deep in my bones, I knew I wasn't here to recover. I was here to disappear. I remembered buying that house on Pine Hollow Road. Me and Robert. He was a librarian. I sewed curtains for every room with my own hands. The house had stairs that creaked with memory and a rose bush out front that only bloomed for him. He died the same year Rachel graduated college. I didn't complain. I didn't cling. I gave her everything, even the upstairs, master bedroom, when she moved back and during her divorce, and when she got the job at the hospital downtown. I cooked, I cleaned, I took care of her boy, Mikey, like he was my second chance at motherhood. She said we were a team, and teams don't lie, but she did. On the 12th day, a nurse named Elise Younger. Then Rachel, with tired eyes and kind hands, pulled me aside. She whispered when no one was looking, your daughter signed a long-term commitment form, 6 months minimum, with power of attorney. I blinked. She said you were forgetting things, and safe at home. You weren't, were you? I shook my head, my jaw clenched, my knuckles white on the walker they had insisted I use. I cook my own meals. I balance my checkbook. I'm not, you don't have to convince me, Elise said softly, but you may want to call someone, a lawyer, someone who isn't her. That night, I took out the little journal I'd kept in the pocket of my cardigan. It smelled like lavender and old paper. I opened to a blank page and wrote. I was not confused. I was not broken, but I was quiet too long. I underlined it 3 times. Then I wrote another sentence. She started calling me her instead of Mom the day I asked about the deed. They didn't take my phone. They forgot. I called a man I hadn't spoken to in over a year, Gregory Shaw. He used to mow our lawn. He was a part-time paralegal finishing law school at night. He'd once helped me resolve a water bill issue when the city double-charged me. He picked up on the second ring. Mrs. Crawford? I need help, I whispered. Rachel, she put me somewhere, and I think she took the house. He was silent for a beat. Then, I'm on my way. The next morning, Gregory showed up in a suit 3 sizes too big and a briefcase too empty. But he brought power with him, not from the law yet but from belief. He believed me, and sometimes that's all you need to start fighting. And the days that followed were slow-moving betrayals, like water eroding stone soft, patient, but devastating all the same. After I signed the papers, those neat little documents giving Fiona and Marcus full access to my finances for health reasons, I felt like I had handed over the key to my own dignity. But I didn't realize how quickly they'd use it to slam the door in my face. They stopped coming over, first once a week, then once every 2. Phone calls became text messages. The last birthday I spent alone save for the nurse who brought me a slice of dry cake and smiled too kindly. I should have known. I should have known the moment Marcus asked if I really needed the upstairs study anymore. Or when Fiona had the guest room painted a soft beige and called it calming. They weren't renovating to care for me. They were preparing to rent out my house once I was out of it. A chilling realization, I overheard it by accident. They were in the kitchen. They thought I was asleep. I was never asleep these days. If she keeps staying here, we'll never get to lease the bottom floor, Fiona said, her voice low and sharp. Marcus sighed. She's barely mobile, Fi. She's better. Off in a place with nurses. 24/7 care. We can't keep doing this. Keep doing what? They hadn't lifted a finger. They didn't even pretend anymore. We'll move her to Willow Pines. It's only 15 minutes away. We'll say it's temporary. Willow Pines, a nursing home. The one I had helped fund through a donation. Drive, 15 years ago. The one where I used to organize art classes for the residents and promise myself I'd never end up. Now they were preparing to leave me there. The quiet rage that night, I sat by my window, watching the moonlight spread like milk across the wooden floors. I didn't cry, not then. Grief had already passed. What I felt now was resolve. I thought about all I had given, the down payment on their home, babysitting their kids when they went on trips, helping Marcus clear his debts when his business failed, paying for Fiona's second degree after she changed careers, and now they were trying to lock me away like I was a liability. The plan begins the next morning. I called on Aya, a woman I had mentored back when she was a young paralegal. She now ran her own estate law firm. Anaya, I said calmly, I need to review my will, and I need to revoke a power of attorney. Silence on the line. Then her voice. Miss Eleanor, what happened? Let's just say, I gave my trust to the wrong people. I'd like to give it back to myself now. We made a plan. The first reversal, I had her quietly draw up new documents, revoking the financial and medical control I had previously given Fiona and Marcus. They had no idea. I even began moving certain assets, liquidating what I didn't need, transferring titles, setting up a quiet trust in my own name. They noticed the mail looked different, but they never opened it. They were too sure I was fading. The day they came to take me, it was a Tuesday when they arrived, both dressed nicely, like they were going to brunch. Hi, Mom, Fiona chirped. We're going on a little drive, just for a few hours. I packed your overnight bag. Where are we going? I asked, already knowing. Marcus smiled. Somewhere peaceful. You'll love it. I nodded and stood. Slowly, my cane tapped once on the floor. I was acting. As we reached the front door, I said, oh wait, let me grab something. I returned, not with a bag, but with a folder. Inside were the documents. Newell power of attorney, reversal, property transfer notice, a letter addressed to them both. They opened it like I'd handed them their own eviction notices. What is this? Marcus stammered. It's everything you've been working for, I said quietly. Except now, it's mine again. Fiona's voice was ice. You can't do this. I already have. Ending of part 2. Cliffhanger. The look on their faces was not one of guilt but rage, like I had robbed them of something that was never theirs to begin with, and that was the moment I knew. They weren't sorry. They weren't even surprised. They were only upset that I'd beaten them to the punch. Sometimes the justice you seek doesn't come in a gavel's bang, but in the silence that follows when truth finally speaks. The courtroom was still, like the breath between thunder and rain. Grace stood quietly, one hand resting on the oak table, her spine straight, her face unreadable. Beside her, the lawyer gathered his papers slowly, deliberately, as if giving everyone time to digest what had just happened. Across the room, Amber slumped back in her chair. The confident smirk she'd worn at the beginning of the hearing had completely melted away. Her cheeks were pale. Her mascara had bled ever so slightly beneath her eyes. It wasn't just a legal defeat. It was exposure. And worse, it was public. The judge's final ruling echoed in Grace's ears like a hymn. All remaining medical, financial, and guardianship decisions shall revert solely to the mother, Miss Grace Whitmore. Furthermore, the court finds evidence of undue influence, emotional manipulation, and breach of fiduciary duty. A separate financial review will be opened. The silence that followed was louder than any shouting match. Narration. For years, Grace had walked through her home as a guest. She had eaten dinner in silence, slept with her door cracked, and watched her daughter spend the money she never asked for, on cars, on spa retreats, on strangers, all while her prescriptions were late, her doctor's visits delayed, her words dismissed like she was an inconvenience. But today, standing before a judge, beneath a flag, and in the presence of truth, Grace felt something shift, not just legally, spiritually. Amber lunged forward suddenly, her voice tight, desperate. Mom, You don't understand what you've done. I was just trying to protect, but Grace didn't flinch. She turned slowly, her eyes meeting her daughter's, not with anger, but with something far more devastating, pity. You protected your comfort, she said quietly, not your mother. Amber recoiled as if the words struck her physically. And in many ways they did, because that was the first time Grace had looked at her in months, really looked, and found nothing worth fearing anymore. Scene shift. Grace's home 1 month later. The house was quiet, but no longer hollow. The furniture had changed, simple now, warm. Family photos had returned to the shelves. The kitchen table was hers again. The bedroom door closed when she wanted it closed. She made her own doctor's appointments. She smiled at the mailman. She even went out for coffee on Tuesday mornings with a retired librarian she'd met at the courthouse. Freedom wasn't loud, it was gentle and earned. Amber never came back. She didn't visit. She didn't call. She didn't apologize. But Grace had stopped waiting for her too. Forgiveness wasn't something she owed. It was something she'd give when she was ready. Final monologue, voiceover style. They say when a child betrays a parent, it rips the roots from both directions. But what they don't tell you is that roots can grow back deeper, wiser, stronger. I lost a daughter, but I found myself.
My dear viewer, how did you like this video? Make sure to share your thoughts in the comments below. And please don't forget to like this video, subscribe to my YouTube channel and hit that bell icon too. Thanks for watching, my dear viewers.